Hey, back to basics. It's Tanya, VSG Tanya 2011, and I am coming in with my weekly vlog for the Back to Basics WLS channel. And this week we're talking about satiety, or like that feeling of fullness. And Janie gave us some guidelines, and she was reading a book by Colleen Cook, and it had 3 principles of gaining and maintaining satiety. And I'm going to run through those real quick, and then I'm going to go through the questions that she has for us. 1, the pouch needs to be truly filled with adequate wall distension with each meal, no snacking. 2, keep the pouch filled over time and slow down the emptying time by eating solid foods and avoiding liquids for 15 minutes before and 1.5 to 2 hours after eating. And then 3, getting adequate protein at each meal. And it also says that emphasize the need for 3 meals a day, including breakfast, which should be eaten 1 to 2 hours after rising, and then not having high calorie liquids and not snacking. So the things that I do probably contradict most of these principles, but they work for me. So here we go. Here are the questions. Do you eat until you get full? Probably, it depends on what you mean by full. I don't feel overly full most of the time. Sometimes if I'm out to eat and I'm not measuring my food, I may take a couple of bites too much and I'll feel a little too full. But the majority of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, I feel satisfied. So I guess I could say yes, I eat till I'm full. Do you know when you're full? Yes. I mean, normally I mean, I've been doing this for almost 2.5 years. I know how much food will satisfy me. So when I know, I have a sign of when I'm overly full. When I'm over full, I'll either get like a pressure in my chest. It kind of comes up into my throat. My nose will start running. I've had the nose running thing since the beginning, and it still happens now. Sometimes my nose will even run when I know I'm not really full. But definitely when I'm full, my nose runs. So that's kind of how I know. Do you measure and weigh your foods? And if so, were you given guidelines to follow by your surgeon's office or nutritionist? I do measure and weigh my food. Even my coffee creamer in the morning, I measure out a tablespoon. When I'm doing portioning out meat for myself, when I'm serving the family, I measure my meat. I always measure out 4 ounces. I think now, if I didn't measure, I probably could eat maybe 5 ounces, but not anything more than that. And it depends on the texture of the meat. If it's white meat chicken, I could probably only eat 3 ounces. If it's dark meat, I could probably eat 4.5, 5. If it's fish, probably less than 4. So it kind of just depends on what type of meat it is. If it's dry, if it's dense, it might be a little bit less than 4. If it has a sauce on it, it might be more than 4. And it depends on, like, some days I have a feeling like I have a bottomless sleeve and I can eat a little bit more, and some days it's just tighter and I can't eat as much. But I do still measure out my food. I measure out liquids. If I'm making a protein shake, I measure the 1 cup. I don't eyeball very often, although I probably could because I've been doing it for so long. I just feel like you got to keep yourself in check sometimes. And now that I can eat a little bit more, I measure out, because I don't think you can really stretch your sleeve that much. I just don't think it's that possible. But no sense in pushing it, right? And it's a good habit to be in, so I do still measure. Did I get guidelines from my surgeon? The only guidelines I got from my surgeon's office had to do with what types of foods to eat and which ones to avoid. You know, of course they said to stay away from bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, and 99% of the time I may take a bite. If I fix my kids or my husband mashed potatoes or baked potato, I might take 1 bite of their mashed potatoes just to have the flavor. If we're out eating somewhere and they get french fries, I might eat 1 or 2 of their french fries. I almost never eat rice. It's just, I don't miss it. And pasta, I was a huge pasta eater, and I really honestly don't miss it at all anymore. It's not that I don't like it. I'm sure I would like it if I ate it. I don't miss it, so why bother eating it? I don't know. And bread, I'll take a bite of bread here and there, like if we're at a restaurant. I wouldn't really eat it at home. I do have this protein bread that I've talked about. I know you've probably heard me talk about it. The Zero Sport bread, that it's like 120 calories for a slice, and it's 12 grams of protein. And so if I feel like I need bread, which I don't probably ever, I usually just do it if I want like variety. If I'm getting bored of what I'm eating, I'll eat that protein bread with like some Greek cream cheese on it. Or I'll eat it like with a scrambled egg and turkey sausage, like for a hearty breakfast if I'm having a late breakfast. But they gave me those guidelines. They did not really give me any guidelines on the amount of food. I kind of picked that up from YouTube and from my own experience. Right after surgery, I think I could only eat like 1 ounce to 2 ounces of solid protein. And then as I got further out, I hit the 4-ounce max, and that's about where I've stayed since. So, which I'm happy about, that it really isn't increasing. I'm not feeling like it's getting that much more. Do you have an appetite, or do you eat because you have to? Well, my situation might be a little bit unique. When I was about 6 months out, I developed hypoglycemia. I was eating extremely low carb. I mean, I had no fruit, no vegetables, nothing. I ate pure protein, and that's it. And I started getting weak spells, the sweating, the hand shaking. I started taking my blood sugar. It was dipping down into like the 50s. And so what they told me was I needed to eat a little bit more often and try and incorporate some complex carbs. So that's what I did. And I've gotten into a habit of eating about every 2 to 3 hours. And now I don't really ever get hungry unless I go past that 3-hour mark. And then my hunger is not like what it was before surgery. Before surgery, I said a million times that I had an insatiable hunger. I could eat constantly, and I almost never felt full. I'd have to gorge myself to really feel full to where I couldn't eat another bite. So I don't have hunger like that at all anymore. That's the biggest blessing of the VSG. What I get now is like an empty feeling, almost like a semi-nauseous, but not really. Just like that empty gut, like I really need to put something in my stomach kind of feeling. And I might get a little stomach growl here and there, but really not that much. If I find that my stomach's starting to growl on a regular basis, I start taking an over-the-counter acid reducer, because I know it's really just stomach acid and it's not really hunger. But yeah, I don't really get like hunger pains. It's just empty and maybe a little bit weak feeling. So I basically eat on a schedule. I eat every 2 to 3 hours, and so I don't really ever feel hunger unless I'm out and I don't have a protein bar or turkey jerky with me, and I'm out longer than I thought I would be, and then I'm like, I need something. Are you successful at not drinking with your meals? Yes, I don't drink with my meals. That was one of the hardest things for me to get used to after surgery. But once I got used to it, it's fine. I used to be a true stickler for, my surgeon's office said 15 minutes before and 30 to 45 minutes after to not drink. I think an hour and a half after on their guidelines is really ridiculous. I mean, you'd never get your water in if you had to wait 30 minutes before and an hour and a half after, and then take 30 minutes. That would be 3 hours right there. It would be almost time to stop drinking again to have your next meal. So no, I don't follow that. I've gotten kind of loose about the 15 minutes before. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. I probably should be a little bit more of a stickler for that. But I just haven't timed it. And usually if I wait 30 minutes after my meal, it ends up being closer to like 45 minutes or an hour, because I forget to drink after. But yeah, I've gotten totally used to that. That doesn't bother me at all. And I do find that I stay fuller when I don't drink. And honestly, I don't think I could drink with my meal, or at least right after my meal, because I think I would throw up because of the fullness. I just don't think I could do that. How do you handle maintaining satiety to avoid grazing? I really don't think grazing has anything to do with being full and satiated. I think grazing has to do with your head, at least for me. When I find myself grazing, it's because I'm bored, or I just want what I want and I want to eat it, and I'm not doing it because I'm hungry. I'm doing it because it's head hunger, or it's a desire. It doesn't have to do with real hunger. So I don't think that necessarily being full makes you avoid grazing. I think the mental work makes you avoid grazing. What was something I wanted? It was something I wanted to dispute. I do think you should get adequate amount of protein at each meal. I think that does help fill you up, because I know if I eat a very seldom when I eat a meal that doesn't have protein. But like maybe when we go to a football game, I'll have popcorn as my lunch. I could eat a boatload of popcorn. So that definitely doesn't fill me up. But if I ate a piece of chicken before I had popcorn, then that really limits what I could take in. So that's one of my tips for avoiding overeating on snacky foods. Yeah, I think that's all I have for staying satiated after WLS. So, let us know if you have any other tips and tricks that you do to stay full or to recognize your fullness. And how do you eat? Do you eat by the clock or do you eat by your feelings? So, bye guys. I'll see you next week for another Back to Basics WLS vlog. Bye.